Hello and welcome to CRS and Commentary, Fandom Memories, Ric Flair. I'm your host, Cedric Kennedy. And while I could talk all day about Ric Flair because there is so much in his legacy, I'm going to have to break it down and make it short because I do not need this to be an hour long, and neither do you. However, I do want to point something out. I want to point out that I got something. And I don't know if the person will see this or not. I guess I could direct them to it, but I got a bear. And I got it from, well, Moon Fruit. Not that site, but I followed his link. I'm going to put the links down there. Triple Threat Promotions, moonfruit.com, all the other stuff. I'm going to put all this stuff in the description, but I got a bear. I had to take pictures. I couldn't do it live. Well, per se live, you know, but look at your screen. It's up there. Got my bear. Took the pictures. It's all good. I love my bear. His name is Stoltz. So, you know, and he came from Germany. I enjoyed. It was like 14 euros or so. I think that's what that sign was, euros. Didn't matter. It translated after all the costs. It was like $29, you know, US. So I'm cool. As you can see, Triple Threat Promotions T3TP.moonfruit.com. You go there, you check them out. Say I said hi. You know, tell them hello. Give them an e-hug for me. You know, do all that. Triple Threat Promotions. I'm gonna put all those links down there, so you can get this bear yourself, various colors. It's adorable, especially put glasses on them. I didn't do that for this. Okay, so let's get into some Ric Flair. All right, I'm gonna leave it up there so y'all can keep looking at the bear. Cause you know, some people like bears. It's a cute little bear. We love them. Ric Flair, as he's been called the dirtiest player in the game, and that was, from my understanding, because I didn't start watching wrestling until not long before Capital Combat 90. I think I was watching all of 89, maybe a little bit in 88, maybe. First match I saw was on Channel 12, late night. I think it was about 12. Yeah, it was like 12 a.m. on Channel 12, not cable. That was a legit Channel 12. I think it was WLFL. I think that's what it was called at the time. I was a little kid. And my first thing was I saw Flair versus Sting. That's what I saw up there. And it was, you know, I didn't understand anything about wrestling, and so I'm just watching. I'm just looking at the screen, and I'm like, this sings to me. And I'm watching Ric Flair, and I'm like, why did he just poke that dude in the eyes? What did that dude do to him? I'm having to learn this stuff. Good guys, bad guys, and the everything. And Flair didn't even tick me off. Not at first. You know, just actually not at all, really. And the reason Flair could never make me angry isn't even because of Ric Flair. It's because of the WWF. It was a tribal thing. So it was NWA/WCW. And then you got the competitor, WWF. And to me, I wanted to see a better product. That's what it was. You know, you got NWA/WCW. And it's a dark arena. You got the fans cheering like crazy. Flair and Sting locking it up, opposed to seeing, you know, WWF, like, I can't remember what channel it was. I know WWF, and I remember seeing Hulk Hogan, and he was so bright, and he was just, I don't know, I didn't trust his words. I still didn't understand things about wrestling, but when it came to Ric Flair talking on the microphone, I was like, wow, You know, that was the difference between my first time seeing Ric Flair and like a week, maybe. No, it wasn't even a week. It was the next morning when I saw that. And so I just believed Ric Flair in talking and yelling and, you know, seeing Arn Anderson and, you know, I mean, Arn Anderson, I was like, whatever he say, he's telling the truth. He can come out and say, I'm going to lie to you right now. I'm like, no, you're not. And that's kind of how it was with Ric Flair, because it's just, I believed what they had to say, their expressions. When I watched Capital Combat 90, The Return of RoboCop, I was like, Return of RoboCop, what's he got to do with wrestling? That was my thing. What's he got to do with wrestling? And so he helps get Sting out the cage and all this, and Flair's in a bloody battle and stuff with Luger, and the match is over. The Horsemen are triumphant, yada yada, and Flair is out there. Wyndham's helping him. Not so much. Flair is like gassed up. He is lit, and he is covered. His face is covered in blood, eyes wide. He barely knows what he wants to say. He wipes the blood off his face and puts it on Wyndham, and Wyndham half flinches like, what are you doing, man? It was not funny then, but more like, you ought to hit that man for this. You know, you suit all clean, even got it sweaty and bloody, and you aren't even in the match. And, you know, Ric Flair holding that beautiful title, and he held that belt. He held it not like it's pristine and I can't get it dirty. He held it like, this belongs to me. That was a big difference. And those guys were saying, no matter what happens, this belt stays here. Ole and Arn Anderson said that. You know, no matter what, that belt stays here. No matter what, we own the ring. And that's what they did. And I had to learn about the Horsemen, what it was, and how it's the bad guy group. And I never necessarily catered into that stuff, but I also knew what they were doing was wrong. So I couldn't wait for someone to beat them. And over time, watching Ric Flair, watching his moveset, Gordon Solie calling it the figure four grapevine. And when Gordon was done commentating, they started calling it the figure four or the figure four leg lock. And then the whole battle of who's the real Nature Boy, I remember that a tiny bit. And I know that must have been before 1990, but at that young age, everything is spliced together because I saw wrestling, but it was never something that was so cognitive when it was early. Because I only saw it randomly at times. You know, check out UWF, Counterforce 40. And it's like, what? And then it would not come on. We've got special guests, but this show would never air, or they would never say when it's going to air. So wrestling was something I really couldn't see until maybe sparse few times in '87 when it would come on randomly on a Saturday, maybe show a rerun or other matches of that same event on a Sunday, but never too much. And look, nothing gets away in my cartoons. Not even wrestling at the time. Not even reruns of cartoons. I was a kid. But when the cartoons, when I knew it was a boring episode, I would throw it over to wrestling. I just didn't know what I was looking at. You know, who are these people? What's this company? Why do they sound different? Why does everything look different? So I didn't know what a promotion was or anything. So Ric Flair would constantly talk about, you know, at first the NWA, you know, heavyweight championship. And then he'd talk about WCW heavyweight championship. There's a TV title, the United States title, the tag titles, tag US titles. You know, this is the NWA, this is WCW. They kind of toggled back and forth. And I realized they're all in okay, it's the same thing. I guess it's WCW, World Championship Wrestling, but the National Wrestling Alliance owns it. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. It was always a toggle, and it was weird. But watching Ric Flair in that ring, I learned what a heel should and should not do. I learned that. I learned how a heel should more or less portray himself. But most importantly, also how a champion is supposed to represent him or herself. Class and dignity. No matter how underhanded and unscrupulous you are, handle yourself with dignity and class when you're outside of that ring. A suit, a tie. And if you're going to be in your tights or your trunks, still hold yourself as you are the pedestal to reach. And I enjoyed that. And he would talk that trash to the fans, to the commentator, especially his opponent. I enjoyed that. The Horsemen come and go, interchanging people. But Flair was always there. And then they did the thing with the Black Scorpion, and my friend was like, that's probably Ric Flair. And I was like, I don't even care. I just want to see what's going to happen. And, you know, I watched WWF, but I was still so against it. I'm like, I want to see this because I don't want to watch that. So he's doing this whole thing against him. I was like, you know, Sting, the Black Scorpion, yada, yada. Then it's Flair. Then they're going to do their thing. And some pay-per-views, most pay-per-views, I just won't get him. Even though I still got Capital Combat 90, my first one on VHS, I still got that. I still got that in a lot of wrestling, you know, but if it didn't have Flair in it, I didn't care. You know, I liked his reactions in the ring. I liked how his matches went. Everything just made sense. I like how he worked on the leg, and until that leg was done, I enjoyed that. He had other moves, you know, vertical suplex, body slam, you know, rolling knee drop, elbow drop, figure four. You know, he had the side headlock. He had a lot. But most importantly, he knew how to work with any and everyone. See, I didn't understand wrestling was a work then. I was trying to figure out how in the world do they survive these things? How do you get a winner? I noticed that the ring was flexible. I noticed how there was so much space and whatnot, and I was doing whatever I could to find out what was going on. I didn't care about the business being exposed. You know, multiple times I heard Flair say, I'm not trying to expose anything, so I'll just say this instead. And I'm like, what? And it was never like trying to hide a special guest or anything. And then it happened. Flair was gone. And I was like, where is he? And then he shows up, WWF, as the real world champion. And I'm like, what? But he's with Bobby Heenan, so cool. Good with that. That's great. Enjoyed seeing him there because he walked to the ring in that black robe, rhinestones, white feathers, as classy and as awesome as Gorilla Monsoon. I don't know where that belt is. That's not a sanctioned belt. I don't know this and that. He needs to get out of here. He is no real world champion, yada, yada, yada. And he did a great job, Gorilla Monsoon, at doing that. They recognized the title. And me, I was like, I can't wait for Flair to go against Hogan and crush him. And since these guys were never side by side, I didn't realize Flair was that much smaller than Hogan at that time. Hogan was tall and close to 400 pounds. I would think legitimately close to 400 pounds. He was a super heavyweight. And so Flair enters the Royal Rumble at number 1. Finishes. He outlasts everyone. The 60-minute man was back. You know, I was happy to see that. You know, he gets his title. It becomes the legitimate title, you know, after a leave and comeback. You know, after he leaves, goes back to WCW, then that folded, you know, and him and Sting's like, let's do it one more time for old time's sake. And they have their classic match. It's just a Flair and Sting style match. There's a Flair and Steamboat style match. When Flair goes against people, it is that styled match. Him and Sting summed everything up that they've ever done inside of, like, I guess 2 minutes, maybe. You know, Flair losing, but there was the love. You know, you could see the love. This is the last time we're going to do this. I was in tears. I think Flair was in tears. I couldn't tell. But that was one of the most haunting moments. Shane McMahon on WCW, you know, on their screen. That was haunting. Flair, he goes on to, you know, there's no Horsemen, but they want to revive the Horsemen, although they had the ability to do so. But it becomes Evolution, where you had the elite of WWF before it becomes WWE. Flair still showing them how it's done. Flair siding more so with Triple H and Dave Bautista. And Flair changed how that group looked. It was classy. It was awesome. Flair being in TNA at points, in between the WCW and WWF. I think it was in between then. When he was there and him and Jay Lethal messing with each other, I thought that was funny. That was hilarious. But Flair also changed the way AJ Styles and others worked. Flair influenced Eric Young when he became heel for the first time, which to me was a heel that would easily outdo Ric Flair or Ole Anderson, or anybody. That influences a lot. How you carry yourself, the words you choose, the opponents you work with, and how you work with them. Flair could get anybody over because of his stature, because of his magnitude. So anyone that goes against him, even if it was just an enhancement wrestler, would still come out looking pretty much decent. And if he went against that person again and that person almost won, that person would get elevated. You can elevate people that way, and Flair has done that quite a few times. They get elevated in other promotions. They come back, and now they're holding the candlestick. They don't win the belt, but they got title shots. Stuff like that. Yeah, no legit title shot. Nobody ever does. But still, for the viewer, it's a title shot nonetheless. Where it's like you're an enhancement wrestler. You're not going to be in a title shot with Flair. What's wrong with you? Dave Bobbins or whatever your name's going to be. Ric Flair, style and grace, poise throughout his entire career. Crazy, lunatic, that's what he looked like. Like he was someone that had full control of himself, but wanted to be out of control of himself. That's how he always looked like. Somebody that's like, yeah, I got to keep my wits about me, but I can't wait to not have that happen. And even in his book, To Be the Man, when Earl Hebner said, I'm not saying Ric Flair is responsible for my first divorce, but I'm sure he had something to do with it. And I was like, yeah, Flair's a troublemaker. And you could see it on his face. I enjoyed that. I loved watching Ric Flair wrestle. And it made me hate the fact that he's got to get older and all this other stuff. Now he's doing Car Shield, something that 30, 40 years ago, you never would have caught him doing those commercials. It just wasn't the thing, not like that. But hey, do what you got to do, right? Protecting the business is something that's not really there. So Flair has carte blanche to do whatever he wanted to do. I can't wait to. I can't wait to see if there's ever going to be another person that can equal the magnitude that Ric Flair had. The way that wrestling is today, I can see that being roughly an impossibility. I can understand that. But if people can get everything about them Let the wrestlers do what they got to do. You know, they'll get that magic back. They'll get it back. And there's some that were close and then it gets thrown away. It's almost like you're popular. You've got that it factor. Now let's just squash that. No one can reach Ric Flair's level. It's almost like they shouldn't reach his level. It's almost what companies are saying. He or she. You know, Ric Flair taught me so much through every single one of his matches. How he handled the wrestler, how he spoke about the wrestler, whether it is a win or a loss, prior or after the match. I learned a lot. And some of that can be seen in some of my wrestlers. You know, some can. And in some, you can see where you get a piece here during the match, a piece there during another piece of the match. Ric Flair has an influence throughout the entire world of professional wrestling. To this day, every chop gains a woo. People love doing the chop block at a clutch moment. Things like that. But if they watched the Horsemen, if they watched Ric Flair, they would have learned to work a body part properly and utilize your finish using that body part instead of working a body part and then doing a finish that has nothing to do with it. Honestly, with all these wrestlers, the ones that I respect and the ones that I watched and followed, even up to modern times, for your poise and your grace and the style that you give, protecting the business even in the most exposed era that it is, doing the best you can with the craft and being professional despite being surrounded by non-professionals. I thank you. And to Ric Flair, thank you for wrestling. Thank you for being you, because that helped me and it's helping a lot of people. We just need certain people to get out of these people's way. I just say, don't let Ric Flair's legacy end with how things are. We need to elevate. We need to elevate. That's what we need to do. So, with that said, this has been Cedric Kennedy for CRS and Commentaries Fandom Memories on Ric Flair. Thank you for listening and or watching the bear on the screen. Ric Flair, thank you for wrestling. And for those of you that do traditional wrestling for your shows, thank you. Let me know when you do your shows. Give me a link. You know, I'm going to still put the links to the bear and whatnot so you can buy it for yourself. It's a cute little bear. Adorable. You know, so thank you, Erwin, for even having this for sale. I know you want to make some money. That was a good sale. I'm a sucker for blue as it is. And thank you for sharing me and whatnot. You know, Triple Threat Promotions, everybody. Love them. With that said, see you next time.